I had been looking forward to my trip for months. As an environmental researcher, I loved spending time in the woods. I set up my tent deep in a dense forest in the Pacific Northwest. The towering evergreens surrounded me on all sides. The first night was quiet. I felt at home among the trees. But as darkness fell, I started to notice something was off. Around midnight, I heard it, a rustling in the bushes nearby. It was faint, almost like someone was whispering. I thought maybe it was just the wind. I tried to push those thoughts away. I was here to document wildlife, not get scared. But as I sat there, I felt a chill run down my spine. The next day, I went out to collect samples. When I returned to my camp, I saw large footprints in the dirt. They were bigger than anything I had ever seen in the woods. I stood there, frozen, heart racing. I didn't know what to think. Maybe a bear or something. But as I looked closer, I felt uneasy. Something wasn't right. That night, I noticed movement near the trees. Shadows flickered, and I felt as though eyes were watching me. I wanted to leave, but something kept me there. I kept telling myself it was just my imagination. But deep down, I was filled with dread. On my third night, I lay awake in my tent. The forest felt alive, breathing, shifting. I heard growling mixed with howling. My heart raced. I thought I saw something moving outside. It felt like the darkness had fingers reaching out for me. I wanted to believe it was just my mind playing tricks on me, but I could feel the unease settling in. By the fourth night, I couldn't sleep. Soft footsteps moved outside my camp. It was surreal, making my skin crawl. I couldn't tell if it was a person or something else. I gathered my courage and unzipped my tent. I stepped out into the bright moonlight. That's when I spotted a figure near the trees. It stood still, just watching me. My breath hitched in my throat. "Is anyone there?" I called out softly, but only silence replied. My instincts told me to turn back, but I hesitated. I took a step forward, and that's when I felt it, a heavy presence hovering in the air. Then I heard it, a voice whispering in the darkness. "Why are you here?" Panic shot through me. I stumbled backward, wanting to run. But I turned around and there was nothing there. The silence felt crushing. I thought I heard laughter, distant and haunting. As I turned back to the trees, I felt a chill. I didn't want to be alone anymore. I saw a shape dart behind a trunk. I wanted to shout, to call for help, but no sound came out. I felt the forest closing in around me, shadows overlapping with my own. I never wanted to leave so much in my life, but I couldn't shake the feeling it was too late to escape. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of silence. It was unsettling, like the forest was holding its breath. I felt exhausted, but I knew I needed to focus on my research. Maybe I could find answers among the trees that had been bothering me. I got dressed and tried to shake off the fear. As I stepped outside, I noticed the footprints again. They led deeper into the woods, as if inviting me to follow. Against my better judgment, curiosity got the best of me. I grabbed my gear and set out, moving cautiously. Each snap of a twig beneath my feet made me jump. The world felt different, as if it belonged to something else. I followed the trail for hours. The sunlight filtered through the trees, casting strange shadows that danced on the ground. But the deeper I went, the more the silence returned. It was thick, choking. That's when I heard a rustling to my right. Freezing, I turned to look. Nothing. Just the trees swaying gently. I wanted to convince myself it was the wind, but it felt like something was hiding, watching me. I caught a glimpse of movement through the trunks, and my pulse quickened. I pushed forward, heart racing with a mix of fear and determination. I had to see what was out there. I approached a clearing and paused, scanning the area. That's when I saw it. A figure crouched behind a massive tree, too far to make out details. It was massive, dark against the bright green of the underbrush. My breathing caught in my throat. "Hello?" I called out, my voice trembling. No response, just the whispers of the wind. Almost instinctively, I stepped closer, every nerve ending on high alert. The figure shifted slightly, but it didn't come out from behind the tree. Then I noticed something strange. Strange markings on the ground, almost like a symbol, surrounded the tree. Something was definitely off. My instincts screamed at me to run, but I couldn't turn back now. I raised my camera, hoping to capture evidence, hoping it was just a trick of the light. But just as I pressed the button, the figure bolted deeper into the forest. Adrenaline surged through me and I started chasing after it, branches scratching my arms. I stumbled into the underbrush, trying to keep sight of whatever it was. But as I moved, the air grew colder. I felt that presence again hovering at the edges of my vision. I was not alone. There was something lurking behind me, something more than just shadows. The forest came alive with unsteady murmurs as I ran, unsure if I was fleeing a creature or my own fear. Suddenly a scream pierced the air, raw and filled with terror. It sounded human. My heart dropped. I had to find out who it was. What was happening? I sprinted toward the sound, panic clawing at my mind. As I reached a thicket of dense shrubs, I froze. That's when I saw the clearing ahead. There, illuminated by a shaft of light, stood another figure. Hands reaching, eyes wide. It wasn't alone. I took a step forward, fear gnawing at my insides. But just as I thought I could discern their features, darkness enveloped the clearing like a heavy curtain. Everything went silent. I couldn't breathe. Each moment felt stretched into eternity. Then I heard whispers again, and they were closer now. "You should not have come." I stood frozen in the dimness, unsure of what to do. The whispers surrounded me, curling through the trees like smoke. "You should not have come." The voice was low and haunting, and it sent a shiver down my spine. I had read about warnings in the woods, but never truly believed them until now. I dared to take a step back, my instinct screaming at me to run. But then a flicker of movement pulled my attention. The figure illuminated in the clearing, the one with hands outstretched, looked desperate. I squinted, trying to see more clearly. Their eyes were wide and wild, reflecting a fear I recognized all too well. "Help!" they croaked, voice trembling, but the shadows were gathering again, pressing in on us. Whether they were friend or foe was still a mystery, but I felt an uncontrollable urge to reach out to them. Before I could respond, the air shifted, and the ground beneath me felt unstable. Without warning, the first figure from behind the tree appeared again, emerging into the dim light, face partially obscured. It was larger than any person I'd seen, tall and broad, almost animalistic. The skin glistened, dark like the bark of the huge trees surrounding us. My heart raced as I stumbled back, barely processing the sight. "Stay away!" I shouted, though my voice trembled. It didn't help. The creature took a step closer and I was rooted in place, fear flooding my mind. What was this thing? What had I stumbled into? The figure in the clearing cried again, a plea for help that echoed through the trees. The darkness around us deepened, eerie shadows swirling as if the forest were alive and angry. "Don't listen to them," the figure shouted. "They want to trap you." I felt the pull of the forest, something ancient and powerful tugging at me. It felt wrong, like the trees were alive with a consciousness that didn't want me there. I looked at the trembling form of the distressed figure. They were real, and they were scared. But could I trust them? Then there was a sudden rustling behind me. I whipped around just in time to see movement, not just one, but several shapes emerging from the forest. They were small, hunched over, with dark eyes glinting like polished stones. Everything in me screamed to run, but the path behind was lost to the shadows. "Come with me," the trapped figure yelled, stretching their arms wider as if to block the advancing shadows. "We have to go now." I didn't know what to do. My mind raced with uncertainty. The shadows approached closer, their whispers growing louder. "You should not have come," they repeated, as if it were a mantra. I took a deep breath. I needed to decide what I could do to escape, or risk losing everything. Then, without thinking, I bolted toward the clearing. "Follow me," I shouted, trying to encourage the trapped figure to run with me. But as I moved forward, the forest shifted again, swallowing the light and trapping me in an unsettling cloak of darkness. Then I heard a loud crack like thunder, branches snapping nearby. Something high above rumbled ominously. and I realized the forest was not just alive. It was furious. In that moment I felt a pull, a heavy weight dragging at my feet. I turned to see the shadow swirling closer, tendrils reaching for me. A scream escaped my lips as I tried to fight against it. The whispers began to drown out my thoughts, chaos enveloping me. And just as I thought I would be lost forever, I caught a glimpse of a glimmering symbol on the ground. It was the same symbol that had surrounded the tree earlier. Its light beckoned, like an anchor amidst the storm around me. But what did it mean? And could it save me in time? The light from the symbol pulsed softly, cutting through the darkness that engulfed me. I stumbled forward, drawn to it, hoping it held the answer to my inexplicable turmoil. My foot landed on its brilliant surface and an electric energy surged through me. It was like a lifeline amid the chaos. "Quick, trust it!" the figure in the clearing shouted, their eyes wide with urgency. I glanced back at them. The shadows were closing in, their whispers intensifying, the tendrils nearly grazing my skin. I took another step toward the symbol, heart racing as I felt the shadows claw at my heels. The creature that loomed behind me let out a low growl, and I knew time was running out. "Step into the light," the figure urged again, eyes pleading. I felt a connection to them in that moment, a shared terror that made me believe I could trust, and had to trust, them. Without hesitating, I lunged for the symbol, feeling the weight of the shadows lift as I plunged my hand into the light. A strange warmth enveloped me, wrapping around my body like a protective embrace. The whispers fell silent, replaced by a deep, resonating thrum that pulsed in tune with my heartbeat. To my surprise, I could see the figure in the clearing more clearly now. They were smaller than I had first noticed, frail almost, but an aura of strength surrounded them. They took a step toward me, the shadows around us reluctantly withdrawing, hissing as they retreated from the light. "What is this?" I gasped, amazed by the power I felt surging within me. "It's a barrier," the figure explained, their voice steadier now. "It can protect us from them, but we can't stay here. They'll find a way around." Suddenly the ground trembled beneath us, and I could see the shapes re-emerging, anger rolling from their forms. Panic surged through me again. Could we really escape? "Where do we go?" I shouted. "What do we do?" "We need to reach the other side of the clearing," they replied, glancing back at the resistant shadows. "There's a tree. We can hide inside." Behind them, towering above the smaller figures, the creature looked more menacing than ever, its brutal features lined with an unmistakable hunger. I felt my resolve harden. If the barrier could buy us time, we had to make a run for it. "Ready?" I asked, my heart racing as adrenaline surged through me. "On 3, they shouted back. 1, 2, before we could reach 3, the creature lunged, the shadows swirling around it like a dark tempest. The air became thick, a palpable force pushing against us. "Go!" I cried, and we dashed forward together, moving toward the other side of the clearing. I could feel the heat of the creature's breath on my back, desperation fueling my speed. As we neared the edge, the light from the symbol flickered ominously behind us. I glanced back and saw that the barrier was beginning to fade. "Keep moving!" the figure yelled, desperation lining their words. Then everything went dark. The ground beneath us disappeared, a sickening plunge into nothingness. My stomach twisted as I fought against the weight of the shadows, a sudden sense of doom creeping over me. Just when I thought I would fall into an abyss, I felt solid ground beneath my feet again, the forest briefly illuminated by a strange glow. It was a new part of the woods, unfamiliar yet oddly mesmerizing. But my sense of relief was short-lived when I heard a low growl behind me, a confirmation that the chase had not ended. "What now?" I whispered, terror clawing at my throat as I turned to face the new obstacles looming ahead. The shadows lingered just behind me, wrapping around the trees like dark fingers. I could feel their hunger rising again, but I had no time to think. A tangle of branches loomed ahead, twisting and curling into strange shapes. I turned to the figure beside me, who was now scanning the area with wide, cautious eyes. "Where are we?" I asked, trying to catch my breath. "This is a sacred place," they replied, their voice a mix of fear and reverence. "But it won't protect us for long." I looked around. The glowing trees pulsed softly, the light inviting yet eerie. Their trunks were covered in strange symbols, eerily similar to the one that had saved us moments ago. Each also radiated a faint energy, but I sensed that this newfound safety was fragile. Suddenly the growl behind us intensified, echoing through the clearing. The creature, now more shadow than form, emerged from the darkness, its eyes locked on us with a predatory intensity. Panic surged within me again as I realized that whatever protective barrier we had relied on was beginning to dissolve. "Over here!" I shouted, pulling the figure toward the nearest tree. I hoped the symbols would offer some protection or at least buy us time. We stumbled forward, our feet faltering on the uneven ground. The creature lurched forward, and I knew it was no longer just a threat. It was closing in for the kill. As we reached the tree, I spotted an opening in its trunk, gnarled yet inviting. "Get inside," I urged, shoving the figure ahead of me. With one last glance back, I felt the weight of the creature's presence behind us, looming and hungry. We squeezed into the hollow, the rough bark scratching our skin. I held my breath, every instinct screaming at me to run, but the shadows surged around the tree, seeking a way in. "What do we do now?" I whispered, my voice barely above a trembling murmur. The figure's expression was grave. "If we can commune with the tree, it might help us. The beings here are tied to it. Their power flows through the roots and the air." "Commune?" I echoed, a knot tightening in my stomach. What did they mean? I didn't feel any connection to this place, just fear. "Yes, focus on the symbols," they said, nudging my arm toward the marks carved into the bark. "Feel their energy. Become part of it. But it's risky." The growl was closer now. I could practically feel the creature's breath, hot and rancid, almost tasting my fear. There was no choice. Fear or safety. I needed to choose. Taking a deep breath, I pressed my palm against the tree, feeling its roughness against my skin. I closed my eyes, trying to clear my thoughts. Suddenly, visions flashed in my mind, whispers of ancient energies, echoes of voices intertwining with the roots, a pulse that matched the rhythm of my heart. "Concentrate," the figure urged, their voice cutting through the haze. Then everything shifted. The creatures in the shadows were forming shapes. Their cries became clearer, a symphony of distress that clashed with the creature's growl. It was as if a whole world of sadness and anger was unfolding before me, woven within the threads of the forest. And that's when I saw it. A flash of light deep within the trunk, pulsing rhythmically, a heartbeat echoing in time with mine. "There," I gasped, excitement mingling with anxiety. "What does it mean?" But before they could answer, the shadows lunged, testing the tree's limits. The bark trembled under the pressure, and I could feel our safety faltering. "Hold on," I yelled, clenching my fists against the tree. But a sudden crack split the air, and light began to seep through the gap. This was not going to hold. We had to escape, or we would be consumed. Desperation settled in my bones, and I sought a way out as the shadows pressed closer. "Now what?" I demanded as the ground around us began to shift, revealing escape routes tangled in roots and vines. "Follow me." The figure beckoned, urgency sharpening their voice. With no other choice, we plunged deeper into the tree, not knowing where it would take us or if we would even make it out. But as we delved in, something inside me stirred, a new strength, a spark that whispered of hope amid the chaos. I clung to it, hoping it would guide us. Then I heard a cry from behind, a sound I'd never heard before, and I knew we were not alone in this journey. As we plunged deeper into the hollow of the tree, the darkness enveloped us, thick and suffocating. The air became dense with an earthy scent, mixed with something sweeter, like nectar. My heart raced, echoing the urgency of our flight. I could still hear the growls crackling through the wood, but they grew fainter the farther we moved. "Stay close," the figure whispered. They seemed to navigate the twists and turns instinctively, guided by an unseen force. I followed, my mind a chaotic swirl of confusion and fear. What had I gotten myself into? Suddenly, the tunnel widened. revealing a dimly lit chamber filled with luminescent fungi. A soft glow illuminated the area, casting ghostly shadows on the walls. The gentle light contrasted sharply with the darkness we had just escaped. I felt a strange pull toward it, an urge to step closer. "Do you feel that?" I asked, unable to resist the call. "Something is shifting," the figure replied, their voice tight with concern. "But we can't linger. They're still coming." I hesitated. "What is this place?" The fungi pulsed rhythmically, almost as if they were alive, reacting to our presence. It was both beautiful and unsettling. "This chamber is where the essence of the forest merges," they explained, urgency sharpening their tone. "It's alive, but we need to—" A loud crash interrupted them. The ground shook, and tendrils of shadow snaked down from the ceiling, stretching toward us like grasping hands. Panic surged in my chest again. "What do we do?" "Find the center," the figure shouted, breaking into a run. "The heart of the tree can protect us." I followed, our footsteps echoing as we rushed through the chamber. The shadows writhed and reached, arcing dangerously close. I could feel the energy swirling in the air, almost like a warning. My instincts screamed at me to run faster. Finally, we reached a large, pulsing crystal at the base of the tree's great heart. It shimmered with vibrant colors, reflecting our frantic faces. The moment I saw it, a wave of energy washed over me. I felt something stir deep within, a feeling that this crystal radiated power unlike anything I had experienced. "Touch it," my companion urged. I hesitated. What if it was a trap? But the shadows pressed closer, their growls growing louder. They were almost upon us. There was no choice. I stepped forward and placed my hand on the cool surface of the crystal. Immediate warmth flooded through me. A connection ignited, resonating with the life of the tree. I could sense the pain of the forest, its fear and its strength. But just as quickly, a jolt of energy coursed through the chamber, and the shadows hesitated, sensing a shift. Then in the chaos I felt a flicker behind me, a presence lurking in the shadows, something far more threatening than I had encountered before. Whispers began to echo around us, voices filled with anguish and desperation. "Help. Us." Before I could react, the chamber trembled violently, and I felt myself being pulled backward into the shadows. A surge of panic gripped me, but just as quickly, the crystal flared with brightness, and the shadows receded momentarily. "Now," my companion shouted. "We can't waste this chance." Just as I turned to run, the voices grew louder, weaving into a cacophony that overwhelmed my senses. I could see them now, figures emerging from the dark, ghostly shapes intertwined with bygone echoes of the forest. Their faces were contorted in anguish, pleading for freedom. "Wait!" I exclaimed. "They need our help!" But the figure beside me grasped my arm tightly. "No. They were lost long ago. We must go." The ground beneath us shook again. I made my choice, torn between fear and compassion. I couldn't leave them behind. But the shadows were closing in once more, darker and more unforgiving. "Let's go!" my companion shouted again, dragging me toward the exit. As we sprinted, I glanced back one last time, the muffled cries resonating in my ears. I had to help them somehow. I had to learn more. With every step, I wrestled with my decision. But the pull of the shadows was relentless, and we burst from the exit of the tree, collapsing into the cool night air. We lay there, gasping for breath, the darkness still lurking at the edges, waiting for the next chance to reclaim us. And I knew this was only the beginning. The forest held secrets far beyond my understanding, and I was determined to uncover them no matter the cost. The chill of the night sank into my bones as we lay on the forest floor. My heart was still racing from the escape, but now a different kind of dread settled in. I turned to my companion, their face shadowed, but I felt the urgency lingering. What were those things? The figure let out a shaky breath. Lost souls, they're remnants of the forest, trapped in the shadows. We can't help them now. We need to focus on survival. I nodded, though guilt gnawed at me. I couldn't shake the feeling that we'd left something important behind. The voices still echoed in my mind, a haunting plea. But there has to be a way to free them. Not now, they insisted, rising to their feet. We're not safe yet. We need to move. Reluctantly, I pushed myself up. The forest loomed around us, dark and silent, and the air felt heavy with unspoken threats. We headed deeper into the woods, away from the tree, cautioning each other to remain quiet. As we walked, I took in my surroundings. The trees were ancient, gnarled branches stretched high above us. I could feel the weight of years layered in their bark. The glowing fungi were a distant memory, and the shadows felt more oppressive now, hiding secrets I wasn't ready to face. Just ahead, a clearing opened up. Moonlight poured in, illuminating a strange sight. I froze. There, in the center, was a massive rock formation covered in strange markings. An intricate pattern of lines and symbols wrapped around the stone, glowing faintly, as if alive. "Do you see that?" I pointed. "What do you think it is?" My companion stepped closer, inspecting it cautiously. "It's a marking of some sort, some kind of warning, perhaps." I felt drawn to it, a pull stronger than before. The whispers returned, but now they seemed distant, as if coming from this rock. What if it's connected to the forest, to those spirits? "Touch it," my companion urged. "We might find answers." Against my better judgment, I reached out and placed my hand on the cool surface. As soon as I made contact, words flooded my mind. Images of the forest's past flashed before me. Vibrant life, harmony, and then darkness sweeping through like a storm. I gasped and stumbled back. "What did you see?" my companion asked, their eyes wide. "Desolation," I breathed, struggling to catch my breath. The forest was once alive, but something came, and now, it's suffocating. Before my companion could respond, a rustling came from the trees surrounding the clearing. My heart raced again. A figure stepped out, shrouded in darkness, its form flickering like a shadow. I felt an instinctual terror. It was not alone. "Who dares disturb the heart of the forest?" a voice boomed, echoing around us. It was deep, guttural, and filled with ancient authority. I exchanged a terrified glance with my companion. We were far from home, and the danger was only just beginning. That's when I saw it, I thought, dread washing over me. The entity was real, and it wasn't just here to talk. The figure stepped fully into the moonlight, revealing itself to be an enormous creature, unlike anything I'd ever seen. It towered above us, its body shifting and rippling like a dark cloud. Sharp, glowing eyes pierced through the shadows, locking onto us. An unsettling chill coursed through me. "Leave this place," it thundered. "You tread upon sacred ground." My companion gripped my arm, but I couldn't move. My feet felt glued to the moss-covered earth. I had never seen such raw power, and a mix of dread and fascination had my heart pounding. "Wait," I finally managed, my voice shaking. "We don't mean any harm. We're just trying to understand." The creature narrowed its eyes. "Understand? The forest has suffered enough from the likes of you. Your kind's curiosity spreads darkness." "Please," my companion added, finding their voice. "We saw what happened here. We want to help." It laughed, a deep, resonating sound that echoed off the trees. "Help? You are not here to help. You are intruders. The forest knows those who seek to exploit it." I swallowed hard, the entities we'd seen before coming back to me. Had those lost souls been victims of similar intrusions? "No, we're not like them," I said, desperation rising within me. "We saw the spirits, those trapped in the shadows. We can help free them." The creature's expression shifted, its eyes flickering with something that resembled interest, or perhaps suspicion. "You wish to free them?" it asked, the booming voice softening just a fraction. "Yes, just tell us how," I pleaded. "By understanding their pain," it replied, its voice dipping into a haunting tone. "Your hearts must be willing to bear witness to what they suffered." "What does that mean?" My companion's voice was barely above a whisper. "There may be a way," came the response as the creature took a step closer. "But it will demand a price. To know their suffering is to walk through it." "Walk through it?" I repeated, fear clenching my gut. "Choices lead to consequences," it said. "You cannot turn back once you begin. Are you prepared?" I hesitated, looking at my companion. Their expression held a flicker of fear, but also determination. I felt the weight of countless eyes watching us, both the living and the lost. Finally, I nodded. "Yes, we're ready." "Then you will show no fear," the creature commanded, and with a swift motion it raised its arms. The markings on the stone glowed brighter, illuminating the clearing with a brilliant light. Suddenly, the air around us thickened, and the world began to twist. The forest blurred as it transformed, and I felt myself being pulled into something far deeper than I had imagined. Before I could react, the light engulfed us, and everything faded to black. What came next would change everything I thought I knew. When the light faded, I found myself in a different place. A darkened forest, but not the one I recognized. Shadows danced across the ground, forming shapes that twisted and stretched unnaturally. The air was thick with an electric tension, and the silence felt heavy. I looked around, my heart pounding. Where had it taken us? "Are you okay?" My companion's voice broke through the quiet, shaky but steady. "I think so," I replied slowly, still disoriented. I took a step, the soil spongy underfoot. "What happened?" Before they could answer, a whisper floated through the air, a low, mournful sound that sent shivers down my spine. "They are here," it echoed, coming from nowhere and everywhere at once. "What was that?" I asked, panic rising in my throat. "I don't know," my companion said, glancing around nervously. "But we need to stick together." The whispers grew louder, overlapping as if a crowd was gathering around us. Each voice bore pain, anger, and sorrow, twisting the air like a palpable force. I shut my eyes, trying to clamp down on the rising fear that threatened to consume me. "Focus on the light," I murmured to myself, recalling the creature's words about bearing witness. I opened my eyes and took a deep breath. "It's okay. Just listen." Moments stretched into an eternity as the voices bled into each other, creating an urgent melody of despair. I felt a pull inside me, a deep-seated empathy starting to rise. The stories they told were raw, filled with loss and betrayal. I saw glimpses of their lives, a child reaching for a parent who was gone, a figure standing alone in a field, crying out against an unforgiving sky. "Do you feel that?" I whispered to my companion. "Yes," they replied, their voice trembling. "But it's overwhelming." I reached for their hand, squeezing it tightly. "We can do this together." Just then, a figure emerged from the darkness ahead. Tall and gaunt, its eyes were hollow, void of light. It took a step forward, head tilted as if it was studying us. My breath hitched. It looked like one of the spirits I had seen before. "Why have you come?" it asked, its voice a hollow echo. "We want to help," I said, my voice stronger than I felt. "To understand your pain and set you free." The figure lingered within the murky shadows. "Many have come with the same intention. Few have ever returned." My stomach dropped. "Returned? Your hearts must bear the weight of sorrow," it said. "Can you endure it?" I felt the pressure of the voices around us intensifying. "We can't turn back now," I said firmly. "We need to know." The spirit tilted its head further, and suddenly the surrounding shadows shifted again. I could see more figures emerging, all with similar hollow eyes, bound by their own untold tragedies. And then, it hit me. These were not just spirits, they were echoes of those who had been ensnared by the darkness, trapped in their own stories, begging for recognition. I looked back at my companion, whose face paled, but eyes burned with determination. They nodded, as if to say we could do this together. "Tell us your stories," I urged, heart racing. "Let us help you remember." With a slow, sorrowful breath, the leading spirit stepped closer. "Then let us begin," it whispered, and the shadows surged forward, enveloping us in darkness. What did that entail? I braced myself for whatever was to come, my heart pounding. As the shadows enveloped us, I felt my heart racing, a drumbeat echoing in my ears. Faces emerged, drifting in and out of clarity, ghostly visages of lost lives and broken stories. I reached out instinctively, trying to grab hold of a wisp of hope amidst the chaos. Remember, the leading spirit urged, and I felt a sudden surge of memories flood my mind, not my own, but the echoes of those trapped within this dimension. I was shown vibrant afternoons under a sun that felt warm, laughter shared with friends, then darkness creeping in like a thief. The memories churned within me, leaving me breathless. In rapid succession, I felt the weight of lives lost. A mother searching for her child, a warrior yearning for his homeland. A child lamenting the fading warmth of summer days. The sorrow washed over me like a tide, filling me with an unshakable grief I had never known. It hurts, I gasped, coming to terms with the agony of their experiences. But it's not just pain. There's love, too. Hope. Yes. A chorus of voices rose around us, and I sensed the figures leaning in closer to grasp these shards of understanding. A flicker of light momentarily illuminated the darkness, and I felt it connect us, waking memories of what was once cherished. If we can remember with you, maybe you can find peace, I urged. But as I spoke, the shadows writhed and roared with anger. You're not supposed to be here. They taunted, voices shrieking from the darkness. Leave. Leave the past alone. No, I shouted, forcing the anger back. You can't ignore their pain. It's part of who they are, part of you. You presume to teach us? The leading spirit hissed, its hollow eyes glaring. You think you understand? We are bound by sorrow. You cannot change that. Another shadow, this one smaller, darted by. I flinched as it recoiled with anguish. Please, help us remember. It was a plea now, raw and vulnerable, echoing from somewhere deep within. I want to help, I cried, my voice shaky. But I can't do it alone. We need to come together, to face this together. The shadows hesitated, uncertainty creeping through the dark forms that had once seemed so certain, so terrifying. Do you truly understand the cost? The leading figure spoke again, this time its voice softer yet wrapped in suspicion. Yes, I nodded. I felt a shivering hope kindling within. I see the love in your memories, the lives and the moments that made you who you were before this darkness. We can endure this. You can endure this. As if the forest heeded my words, the shadows began to ripple, unwinding the tapestry of grievances that had woven itself around them. Each ghostly figure stepped closer, revealing parts of their stories that flickered through the murky dark like distant stars. For a moment I felt my heart synchronize with the resonance of their lives. But as dimensions shifted, a roar of discontent rang out. The shadows recoiled violently. You dare defy our pain? They swelled back, threatening to engulf us again. I felt my companion's hand tighten around mine, and together we stepped forward. We can share the burden, they declared, voice strong and resolute. Let us in. The air around us thickened with tension. The leading spirit regarded us with a mixture of suspicion and a hint of hope. Can you truly bear the burden without succumbing to despair? Yes, I affirmed. We're ready. Suddenly the ground trembled as shadows surged forth, a storm of fury and sorrow converging upon us. No forgiveness, they howled, drowning out all thought. Yet inside me I felt a flicker of defiance. I closed my eyes and focused on those moments of joy threaded through pain, the buoyancy of laughter, the warmth of sunlight. I let the memories crash over me, allowing the weight of sorrow to intertwine with the light within my heart. The shadows folded and writhed, hesitating as they faced our combined strength. Shadows reached toward us but merged into something else. Hope and grief blended together. The leading spirit, caught in this turmoil, began to flicker and fade, trapped in the fray of darkness. In that moment everything shifted. The whispers converged into a single entity. Show us. it implored. "Show us that light still exists," I urged desperately. "The love we shared is not just forgotten." It was then that all the figures surged forward, a collective wave of grief and joy, despair and hope that crashed against the shadows. I felt my chest tighten as if I were being pulled into the heart of this balance. Suddenly light erupted from the center of all of that sorrow, a brightness that forced the shadows into retreat, casting a firefly glow into the dark. I blinked, barely able to comprehend the radiance deepening among us. The shadows shrieked and shifted uneasily, yearning yet afraid. "We were lost but not forgotten," the figures whispered, their gazes boiling with newfound awareness. Perhaps we can remember without pain. "Let us help you find those parts," my companion encouraged softly. "Your experiences are part of you, but they need not bind you." And with that, I reached deep into the warmth of the light, beckoning the lost to come closer, to let the love they had been clinging to guide them out of darkness. I wanted so desperately to bridge the divide, to relinquish them from their chains. The shadows began to thin, the figures shimmering as they embraced that light, their forms increasingly translucent. One by one they turned towards the radiance, allowing forgotten memories to flow over them, washing away bitterness and sorrow. "I will not forget," the leading spirit resolved, moving toward the light with the others. "We are ready to find peace." As they drew nearer, I felt time shifting, swirling like leaves in the wind. Each layered experience of loss and joy intertwined, allowing our hearts to bleed together. The atmosphere pulsed, shifting less about pain and more about belonging. Just as the last figure stepped forward and melted into the stream of light, the darkness still lurking wailed, surrendering to the inevitable vibration of change. And then, silence fell. When I opened my eyes, the forest was completely transformed. The morning sun cast golden rays through the branches, illuminating the way. My companion glanced at me, relief and awe mirrored in their expression. "We did it," I whispered, though a part of me still felt unsettled. The toll of their grief still echoed within my heart. "And yet," my companion began, glancing behind us where shadows still lingered like remnants of a dream. "Not all were saved." I nodded, but they were given a chance. As we stepped forward, navigating safely into the weakened veil of darkness, I could still feel the echo of the forest's whispers around us. Some questions remained unanswered, threads of uncertainty lingering like memories of missed chances. Maybe it was merely the beginning of understanding a deeper truth about lost souls and the forest's wrath. But I couldn't help feeling as if we had chipped away at the weight of darkness that hung around us. "I wonder," I said slowly, glancing back once more to where the shadows curled, "if we'll ever discover the rest of their stories." "Perhaps," my companion replied quietly, "but some should remain hidden." We ventured onward, unsure of what lay ahead. The forest was vast and deep, cradling mysteries yet to be explored. The sunlight illuminated our path, yet the shadows danced at the corners of our vision, a reminder that not all darkness could be swept away. The echoing voices of the lost might have dimmed, but they remained with us, shaping everything about our journey, a haunting reminder of the fragility of existence, a story waiting to be told again.